everyone, welcome. This is Hannah and you're watching B-Side Yoga. In today's session, we will focus on shoulders and tap into some movements and exercises to promote mobility, stability and strength within the shoulders and the upper body. For this approximately 40-minute flow, you will need a yoga mat, a yoga block or a book, a blanket and resistance band. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the session. And now let's get started and move with joy and curiosity. Have fun. Let's start in a seated position, either kneeling or cross-legged. Grabbing a block between your palms, putting some pressure from both sides, and then we're going to start with our arms straight to circle the block around our head. Obviously, we can bend the elbows as we move the block behind our head and reaching forward as you circle around. Keep putting some pressure, some resistance toward the block as you continue to circle the block around. And then staying in any of the positions as long as you like, circling faster or slower than what I'm demonstrating. Finding your movement in the beginning of this session, and eventually also switching directions, circling the block toward the other side, and just checking in with how this feels in your upper body, side stretches, gentle extension and flexion. The next movement, we're going to keep the block and place it between our forearms. This is a bit tricky sometimes. And facing the palms up. So we're turning the palms up, stretching the arms forward, pulling your shoulder blades together in your back. As you start lifting your arms up, keep pressing into the block, checking until where you can get for this session. So don't go over any pain or resistance in your shoulders, just checking in with how far you can reach up at this moment. Keeping the resistance toward the block and checking in with your shoulders and shoulder blades, pulling them down. Hold it for a moment and releasing down. Coming into the next movement, we're continuing along the same line, but this time bending the elbows. So the block and the palms are kind of facing our face. As we start to reach the arms up, again, pressing the arms toward or into the block as you lift up. Lowering halfway down and lifting back up. Trying to keep your lower ribs pulling down and in. So we're not trying to back bend here from our rib cage, but trying to focus the movement in our shoulder joints. And after a couple of rounds, releasing the block to the side. Shake off your arms and setting yourself up in a tabletop position. We're just going to start with warming up our wrists a little bit. So tugging your toes, sitting your buttocks back toward your heels, arms stretched out long, and starting to tap your hands, your palms into the ground. And then shifting your weight back forward over your wrists. Continue to tap. Maybe you notice it's getting a little bit harder and the tapping becomes smaller. Changing your weight back. Make the tapping bigger again. And then wandering your weight back over your wrists. Continue to tap for a couple of times and release your hands. Shake it off Imagine that you're kind of releasing some water from your fingertips, stretching them out, making fists in front of you, and loosening up a little bit. Setting yourself up, tabletop position, wrists under your shoulders, and knees in line with your hips. We're starting to come into some protraction, retraction in our shoulders, meaning lowering the chest down as you pull your shoulder blades together toward your spine and pushing them apart as you press the palms into the ground. Inhale, retraction. Exhale, protraction. Continuing into elevation and depression, so shrugging the shoulders on your inhale toward your ears, and on your exhale, pull them down your spine. Inhaling to your ears, exhale down. Loosen it up a little bit, finding some free movement, and we're going to continue to combine these 4 movements. So shrugging the shoulders toward your ears, moving into retraction, shoulder blades moving toward your spine, drawing them down, and exhale, retraction. Circling your shoulders and trying to keep your pelvis stable as you move through these circles. Changing direction anytime it feels good to you, so trying to reverse the movement. And setting your buttocks back, shake of your arms, shoulders, and find yourself back into tabletop position. We're going to continue with some articulate rotation in our shoulder joints with the right arm reaching forward, thumb pointing up. And then we're going to start circling the arm around, as in turning the thumb in and down, so the palm is facing away from your body, and then circling the arm as big as possible toward the back and forward again. Thumb facing up. Internal rotation, shoulder, reaching the arm back and forward. External rotation, thumb up. Continue a couple of rounds and imagine that there's some resistance in the air that you're moving through. And then to change direction, we're reaching the arm back first, circling, thumb up into external rotation in our shoulder as you move forward and back down. Shake it off, find some free movement in your spine, in your shoulders, before we move to the other side. Again, in tabletop position, reaching the left arm forward, thumb facing up, maybe finding a little bit more of that external rotation in your shoulder before you start turning the thumb in and down to circle the arm back. Reaching as big as you can, maybe imagining that there's some kind of obstacle that you kind of have to circle the arm around. And checking in also what's happening with the other side of your body, with the other shoulder. Are we kind of sinking into that right side, collapsing into the hip? Trying to keep stability in our upper body. And reversing the movement, circling the arm over the back forward. And place it down again, finding that free movement. And from tabletop position, we're going to continue with some movement in our spine. So inhaling, softening the belly. Exhale, drawing the belly button toward the spine. Expanding that movement into your cat-cow spinal extension and flexion. Tugging your toes. Next time, as you exhale, lift your knees off the ground, hovering tabletop position. Inhale, lower the knees down into cow. Exhale, hovering tabletop position, inviting some bouncing, pressing the soles of your feet, the balls of your feet into the ground. Exhale one more time, hovering tabletop position. And pushing your hips up, straightening the legs one after the other, bending the opposite knee into downward facing dog, inviting some movement here, shaking your head, yes, no. And inhale, lower your knees down, cow. Exhale, rounding the spine all the way into your child pose. Inhale, wave yourself back up, cow. Exhale, hover the knees and pushing all the way back, downward facing dog. Continue inhaling, lower the knees down into cow. Exhale, cat into child's pose. Wave yourself back up, cow. And exhale, hovering the knees off the ground into downward facing dog. Knees down on your inhale. And staying in your tabletop position. Reaching back with the left leg. And then shifting your weight back and forth a couple of times, pushing the heel back, finding a stretch in the posterior chain of your left leg. And then lifting that leg up, opposite arm, right arm stretches forward, balancing table, exhaling, knee and elbow together. Inhale, extension. Hold the extension for a moment and releasing back down, tabletop position. Stepping that left foot over behind the right into the diagonal, stretching and stepping forward, left foot next to the left hand. Bend that knee. Looking over your shoulder as you step back and forward, bending the knee into a lunge. Allowing also the left hand to stretch forward and to the right, finding a nice side body stretch and stepping back forward. Continue one more round, stretching into the side body and stepping that left foot forward beside the left hand. And then from here, we're going to start pressing the palms into the ground, lifting the chest up. And lift that foot off the ground, maybe straightening it and circling it all the way back. Tabletop position. And I'm just turning around before we're setting ourselves up for the other side. So finding your tabletop position again. Reaching back with the right leg. Stretching back and forth a couple of times. Finding that nice stretch in your posterior chain of the right leg. And then lifting that leg up into your balancing tabletop. Left arm reaching forward. Knee to nose on your exhale. Inhale into extension. And stepping into the diagonal, right foot stepping over to the left and reaching forward, right leg next to your right hand. Again, allowing your eyes, your head to follow the movement. And if you like, reaching forward and to the left with your right arm as well, finding that nice side body stretch. And set yourself up, lift that foot off the ground, maybe straightening the leg as you circle back into tabletop position. And from here, coming onto your fists for a moment and flattening, opening down onto the tops of your hands. So just bringing in a bit of a different loading scenario for your wrists. And maybe circling the wrists or shaking them off, whatever feels good to you. Before we continue to carry weight on those wrists, setting yourself back up, tabletop position. And inhale, cow, tug your toes. Exhale, hovering tabletop position. Reaching back with that right leg. So just like in a balancing table, just we're doing it one leg at a time and one arm at a time, keeping the knees hovered over the floor. And as you reach your arms alternately forward, trying to keep the upper body stable. So trying to wobble a little bit, but keeping your hips and torso kind of aligned so we're not collapsing into the side. And then if you like, exploring tabletop position, balancing, reaching left leg, right arm, right leg, left arm at the same time. Playing around here a little bit, so you can choose your variation. Either you're just moving the legs, just arms, and pushing back, downward facing dog, inviting some movement in that downward facing dog, bending one knee at a time, looking beneath your armpits from side to side, and walking your feet forward into forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift into a straight back. And exhale, forward fold, releasing down. Coming all the way up, hands over your head. And back into standing mountain pose. Continue inhaling, hands over your head. And forward fold. Into your straight back. Exhale, forward fold. Stepping back into downward facing dog. And then in your downward facing dog, starting to bounce a little bit. So pressing the soles of your feet into the ground, allowing your knees to soften. Bending the knees a little bit more, straightening the legs as you lift your hips up and unfold your spine, vertebra by vertebra, into your plank position. Continuing a couple of times into this waving transition from downward facing dog into plank. Bending the knees gently as you move back from plank into downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, unfolding vertebra by vertebra forward into your plank. From here, we're starting to lower our knees down without dropping down in our hips. Bending your elbows parallel to your torso and push yourself back up. Down and up. Trying to stay stable in your pelvis and belly. Releasing down into baby cobra. And exhale all the way down. Releasing your head to the side and placing the arms toward the back, the palms facing down into the ground. Maybe wiggling your hips left and right, releasing the lower back for a moment. I'm just going to turn around so you can see a little bit better. So with the palms of your hands facing into the ground, we're going to start pressing them down and simply lifting our shoulders off the ground. So pulling the shoulder blades together in your back. Hold it here and releasing back down. Your head stays on the ground. And we're pressing, just in baby cobra, the tops of your feet, pubic bone down into the ground as you lift your shoulders up, pressing the palms of your hands into the ground. Repeating a couple of times, holding it, and releasing back down. Last time, as your shoulders are lifted up, releasing the hands from the ground, releasing the head, lifting up and swimming your arms back and forth. Allowing your thumbs to move out and up as you reach your hands back. External rotation in your shoulders. Last time, moving forward, making fists with your hand, and on the exhale, pulling the shoulders down your spine, elbows bent, lifting your chest a little bit further from the ground. Hold it. Last time, exhale. Hold it here. Reaching the arms back and releasing down. Making a cushion with your palms under your forehead. Shake off your hips left and right. Maybe inviting some movement into your shoulders. Taking a couple of breaths, lying on your belly. From here, we're going to continue with a little bit of shoulder mobility. So propping yourself with two blocks in front of you and maybe placing the blanket underneath your forehead. So the blocks are kind of a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. And we're placing both our hands onto the blocks, thumbs pointing up and the forehead releasing down into the blanket. Circling one arm back, so only your right arm is lying on the block. And we're going to start lifting that arm off the block. Again, pressing tops of your feet, pubic bone into the ground, lifting up, thumb is pointing up toward the ceiling, external rotation in your shoulder. Hold it for a moment and releasing back down onto the block. Inhale, lift it up. Continue to breathe, holding it here. Exhale, releasing onto the block. Lift it up one more time. Inhale. Hold it here. And releasing back down. If you like, repeating that same way or putting one block on top of the other, placing your right hand on top. And then from here, from this new starting point, again, trying to lift your arm up. Inhaling. Hold it. And this might be obviously a smaller lift than before. And exhale, placing it down again. Inhale, set yourself up, lifting the arm of the blocks. Exhale down. One more round. Inhale. And releasing down. Separating the blocks again. And we're moving over to the other side. Right hand moving toward your body, next to your body, and left hand on top of the block. Thumb pointing up, finding that external rotation in your shoulder, lifting on your inhale. Keep reaching up into that resistance. Holding here, continue to breathe. Exhale, releasing onto the block. Inhale up. And release. Last round like this. Inhaling, lifting the hand from the block. And releasing down. Again, take a break and repeat it with that same height, or if you like, propping the other block on top, having a more elevated starting position. Inhale, lifting up. And releasing down. 3 times in total, continuing in your own rhythm, taking some time to kind of prepare yourself for the lift up, checking in with the rest of your body. And last round, lifting up, hold it, and releasing back down onto the blocks. Bringing both arms next to your body, and again, placing the head on one side, turning the head on one side, and resting here for a moment. Once you're ready, taking the blanket with you, or simply, depending on how you are positioned, removing the plugs, and we are maybe unfolding the blanket in front of our mat so that with the edge of your ribcage you're coming onto the front side of your mat or off the mat and supporting your forearms in Sphinx pose into the blanket and releasing down a couple of times, so allowing your shoulders to move, allowing to sink in. On your next inhale, sliding your arms forward toward the ground. Exhale, pulling the arms back toward your torso into Sphinx. Repeating a couple of times. Inhale, sinking down. Exhale, pull toward you. Inhale, sliding forward, releasing the head down. Exhale, pulling the blanket toward your torso, opening into Sphinx. And either staying with this movement, this push and pull in Sphinx, or as you draw the blanket toward your torso, pressing the forearms into the ground and lifting your pelvis, your legs off the ground into a forearm plank, releasing back down. Inhale, sliding the blanket forward. Exhale, pulling it toward you, pushing into the ground, lifting up, forearm plank. Repeating a couple of rounds. Placing the hands next to your ribcage, lifting yourself up over half plank into child's pose, maybe opening your palms toward the ceiling or taking them all the way back toward your feet. Taking a couple of breaths here. And reaching forward with your hands. Lift yourself over tabletop back into downward facing dog. In down dog, lifting your right leg up into three-legged dog. And we're going to start dropping the knee toward the right elbow. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, knee to elbow. Placing your foot down next to your right hand and walking that foot into center, framing it with your both palms and lifting up from the ground into high lunge position. Adjusting your position, maybe making the lunge position a little bit smaller. I'm just going to turn around for you to see from the front. Checking in with your knee, pointing into the direction of your toes or a little bit outward. Opening the back foot into warrior two. And then reaching back and forth. So keeping your foundation strong, your legs grounded into the floor as you reach back and forth, sort of kind of dancing or surfing your warrior, finding some softness, some ease in your upper body and shoulders. Straightening the arms out, and we're just going to flip the palms opposite direction, internal, external rotation in your shoulders. And stepping all the way forward into standing, reaching your hands over your head. And you can do this either with a resistance band or without. If you're not using a resistance band, just imagine that you're holding a big balloon or something in between your palms, or grabbing the resistance band, sort of a little bit wider than shoulder width apart, creating some tension, and we're starting to circle the upper body around. So keeping again our legs steady as we circle from one side to the other, swinging the torso from right to left. Inhale as you lift up over the side. Exhale as you fold forward and down. Keeping the tension, so pulling the resistance band apart. And releasing your hands in front of your pelvis, your legs. Inhaling, reaching up. Straight arms again, keeping the tension. Exhaling back down. Keeping your rib cage, your lower ribs in and down as you lift up from your shoulders. So we don't want to come into that back bending from our pelvis or from our rib cage. Inhale, reaching up, maybe arms next to your ears or maybe lower. One more time, inhaling up, keeping the tension, releasing back down. Placing the resistance band to the side, stepping to the front of your mat. And from here, inhaling, lifting your hands over your head. Exhale, forward fold. Finding your straight back on your inhale, exhaling, folding down, stepping back, downward facing dog. And from here, finding your three-legged downward facing dog to the other side, left leg in extension. Exhale, dropping the knee to your left elbow. 3 times. Stepping that foot next to your left hand and walking in between both hands. Inhaling into high lunge. Checking in with your standing position. And from here, again, we're opening into a warrior two position, pivoting the back foot, releasing the arms down, and starting to reach back and forth, surfing, finding some free movement in that warrior two. Again, coming back into steady warrior two and rotating, flipping the palms up and down. Internal, external rotation in your shoulder. Stepping forward into standing, releasing your arms down, shake it off a little bit, finding your resistance band, And we're coming into another exercise where we kind of facing the palms up and holding the resistance band or in our hands, wrapping the fingers around. And again, we're creating some tension. So pulling the resistance band apart, abduction, keeping your shoulder blades in your back, moving down, drawing them together as you pull the band apart and back to center. Keeping your elbows next to your body. Opening your chest. Exhaling back down. Continue with that same movement, only that we're straightening out our arms, drawing down your shoulders, shoulder blades together, and pulling the arms apart and retrieving back into center. Continue a couple of rounds. And placing the resistance band to the side, shake off your arms, your shoulders, stepping one more time to the front of your mat. And inhale, hands over your head, exhale, forward fold. Into a straight back, exhale down. Stepping back into your downward facing dog. And we're traveling one more time into plank position, lifting the buttocks up and unfolding vertebra by vertebra into plank. And lowering the knees down, chest into baby cobra. Exhale, releasing down all the way. Opening your arms out to the side into cactus arms, so bending your elbows, palms flat onto the ground. And then with your left foot stepping behind into the diagonal behind the right, tipping your toe into the ground, pressing the left palm into the ground, rolling over onto your right side, finding a nice stretch in your right chest. Staying here for a couple of breaths. And rolling back onto your belly. Moving over to the other side, the right leg reaching back behind the left and right palm pressing into the ground, lifting yourself, rolling yourself onto that left side, feeling the stretch in your left chest. Coming back down to lying on your belly, placing the hands next to your rib cage, pressing into the ground and stepping the right foot up behind the left into seated, rotating back down onto your belly. Left foot behind the right, push yourself off the ground, seated twist over your left shoulder. Continuing a couple of times, dynamically moving in and out of the seated twist. Staying here on either side as long as you want to. And finally arriving in a seated position, stretching out both legs forward. And stepping your left leg over the right, knees on top of each other, and stretching out the arms next to your body and bringing the right arm on top of the left, finding eagle arms or your variation of eagle arms, maybe the back of your palms touching, maybe simply the hands touching on your shoulders, or interlacing all the way into eagle arms. Inhaling, lifting your elbows up, and exhaling, pulling your shoulders down. Dynamically moving between the inhale, the lift up, and the exhale, the pulling down, the contracting down. Exhale, folding forward, bringing your elbows toward your knees. Taking a couple of deep breaths into your upper back. To come back out, lifting back into straight back. Releasing the arms, shake them off, and changing the way our legs are crossed over. Left arm over the right arm. Again, choosing your variation of the hand position in eagle arms. Inhaling, lifting your elbows up. Exhale, draw your shoulders down. And folding forward, bringing your knees, your elbows toward your knees. Releasing the neck, the head. Taking a couple of deep breaths into your upper back. And inhaling, coming back into seated, releasing the arms, releasing your legs. Draw them into a cross-legged seated position. And then from here, we're going to end this session with some neck stretches. Finding an upright seated position, dropping your chin towards your chest. Inhaling over center, reaching up toward the ceiling, keeping your neck and your throat long. And exhaling over center, chin towards chest. Coming to center, looking over your right shoulder. Moving over center to the other side. Choosing your rhythm of movement here. This can always be faster or slower than my demonstration. And last but not least, dropping your right ear over your right shoulder. If you like, adding a bit of weight with your right hand onto your head. Shifting over to the other side, left ear, left shoulder, adding a little bit of weight with your left arm. And let's do some half circles, so dropping the chin towards the chest and walking over one collarbone, dropping the ear over the shoulder, walking back to the other collarbone, ear over shoulder, back to center, lifting your head up, circle the shoulders and give yourself a little bit of a neck massage. So sliding down with your fingers the sides of your neck into your shoulders. With the one hand massaging the left shoulder, rubbing the shoulder joint, and with the other hand massaging the right shoulder, and also again rubbing your shoulder joint. Taking your time to end the practice. Thanks a lot for your effort, for the energy invested. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.